So here's the deal, Lucille. I think we're about to get a storm here in a little bit. I got one big monster to cut this morning. All I got to do is put it on the ground. And it's a big one too. I got the 592 back here. Kind of put a half sharpening on the thing. It ought to be okay. It's still that chain where I hit all that metal in that tree, and this tree here has got metal in it too because there's a barbed wire fence. So I'm gonna cut above the fence, hopefully. And it's that big, see all them dead limbs over there? You can see the line of clouds there too. So we're gonna go over here and see if we can put this thing on the ground with no issues or anything. So this is a house right here. See the barbed wire in the back of it. So I'm just gonna cut it up here. It's bad dead too. All right. So I'm gonna set this camera. It's already trying to spit a little rain. I'm not gonna do a whole lot to it. I'm just gonna notch it and bore it and let it go. So I'd love to finish on this side over here, but I'm not, because you see that giant limb that's sticking out. Make sure it's yeah. You see that giant limb that's sticking out. Well, it's probably gonna break when it brushes this right here. And man, I'd have to be way over yonder somewhere to miss it. So this other side is pretty clean. And I don't want to dodge as much stuff, so I'm gonna cut it and I'm going yonder way. Let me get y'all over here somewhere, because I want y'all to see, because when this thing hits the ground, it's gonna shatter like glass everywhere. Wish. Let's see. I got all pretty good damage on here. Man, did y'all hear the sound of that thing? Cool thing is it fell, it rocked over slow, give me time to get out of there. Gosh, that is a big freaking tree. I'm telling you, he's going to cut that thing up for firewood. That's what he's going to do. That's the daggone monster, y'all. I hate cutting trees off high for two reasons. It puts you in a screwy situation, and then it makes you work your butt off, man. Especially when you got a hold of a big saw like the 592 or something, because they're so daggone heavy and you're trying to hold it up. I'm gonna put y'all on my helmet. I'm gonna cut some of these limbs off for him and get them released so he don't get in a bind. So I cut my notch right here.
Yeah.
And then see that bar on the goater right there, see? So what you do is, when I cut my notch, you've aimed the tree. And then, rather than coming back here and cutting this away,
yeah,
what I do is I start the saw right here and I bore in and then cut up. And go over on the other side, bore in and cut up. Your hinge is made then.
That's the hinge.
That's a hinge. It works just like a hinge
you
on
have to go over here and come in that way.
That's
too.
right. So I've made my hinge. That way I'm not standing here at the tree while it's falling, trying to make that hinge.
Up here.
You see, well, right here, cutting up to it. Because see, this tree was leaning already, so it would have been like Mr. Kelly when it busted on him. They call it barber chair, and it got his leg, broke his leg, and the bone came out. This right here keeps this from happening, because what I do is I bore in, cut up, make my hinge, bore in, cut the hinge. All right, so think about it as a door. A door is not going to work without a hinge, right? Okay. This is your connection point to the stump right here. This is going to hold this till this notch closes. And once that notch closes, the name of the game, it's going to break. You want to make that notch wide enough to where that tree is nearly at the ground when it tears this hinge. Then once, because see, that's going to keep this on this stump. All right. So if the tree hits something on the way to the ground or anything like that, it's going to keep.
Want to twist.
That's right. If you cut through this hinge, so you're cutting and you cut through this hinge, or if you don't cut, say you cut a 22.5 degree notch, all right, you need a notch that's about 70 degrees or greater. All right, that's going to put the tree nearly on the ground right there, okay? All right, so you cut a 22.5. When that tree gets about right there, it's going to snap that hinge. When this closes, it's going to snap it. All right. When it snaps, then that tree's still upright. Then the top of that tree tries to seek its attachment point. So what'll happen a lot of times is that tree, that stem, will shoot off that stump, and it may go 50 or 60 feet back that way. That's how a lot of guys get whacked, get killed and everything. So once I bore in, then I take off cutting and I cut out the back, and I go over on the other side and cut out the back, and then you see that right there?
Yeah.
That's my trigger. So then I leave that, and then I can stand right back there and I can cut that trigger and I'm gone. It's all over with then. I'm gone, I'm safely out of the way. So you see how that works now? How that's the reason why I do.
Cut that way.
Cut that away, that's right, yes sir. Yeah, I cut that away. It's called.
And that trigger's the last thing you make.
Last thing I make. And see, I'll stick a wedge in for an insurance. It's over here on the ground. See, I cut over this way and stopped right there, and then I stick that wedge in right there, and that wedge will hold that tree. So say if I cut out the back or whatever and cut the trigger, and the tree don't want to go that way, it'll sit on this wedge. This wedge will hold it. That tree's not going to go anywhere but that way. It doesn't matter. And you can sit here till you get a machine, a tractor, anything to help push on it, or you can take and drive this wedge on in and wedge it over. So it's going to sit there and it's going to hold it. And the tree's not going to do the only way it's going to fall is that way. It's not going to come, it may sit down, but it's not going backwards. It can't.
With this? With
that right there. But if you cut through that, all bets are off then. You're screwed then if you cut through that hinge. And that's very important to keep that.
Well, that's real important right here. You got to know how wide to make it.
That's right. The width is 10.
Needs to be straight.
You're correct.
Like
correct. So the hinge needs to be 10% of the DBH, diameter breast height. So if that tree's 40 inches at breast height, approximately a 4-inch thick hinge, okay? You got to know your fiber is the tree of what you're cutting. So say a loblolly pine, you can get away with, I'll cut them down to about a 5, 6, 7% hinge because they hold so well. You can get away with a thinner hinge. If you go thicker, then you'll get that barber chair effect like what happened to Mr. Kelly and got his leg broke. So you got a little sweet spot right there, because that hinge is your attachment point again, just like what makes a door work on a door frame. It's no different than the seat belt in your car. You would not take your seat belt off running 70 when you still got a mile to go to your destination. You want that right there to stay attached as long as it can till that tree hits the ground. And the name of the game is to keep that butt of that tree right here, you see. And on a tree like this right here, it had all this dead stuff in it. It had a dead limb up there that was going to touch that oak. So I didn't want to finish on this side, because when that thing started falling, it could break that limb out, and that limb was about 50 or 60 foot long. And so I would have had to bend 50 or 60 foot that away to keep from getting hit from it. So I finished over here on this side. But when you're right here and you just cut this trigger, that trigger was from that wedge to my finger. You cut that trigger and you just got the tip of the bar in there. You're not buried up hammering it. You just lightly touch that trigger and then I'm gone. You know, I'm gone over there. That's how a lot of people get hurt. They're sitting here or killed. They're sitting right here trying to cut, and look where that limb broke out. Yeah. Look at where that limb broke out. All right, if you'd have been standing right there, you know, if I'd have been standing right there when that limb broke out, when you rode up, you'd have found me smashed right there dead. And all you could do is just call 911 at that point. There ain't nothing but a greasy spot left, you know. So it's a lot safer to cut them, like, especially, like say Kelly Wallace or Mr. Jody, they have raw experience.
Yeah, but I never saw them cut one like that.
They didn't, no, they didn't. And so
they
there's
just
guys,
got up here and notched it,
that's
and then
right,
went to the back
and come up. Yeah. The problem with that again is it's hard to chase your cut to keep it from busting sometimes, especially on a leaner like this that's that heavy. And also you're standing right here by the tree trying to cut it. And it's
well,
hard.
Hell, it might, I mean, it might start falling when this hinge is all the way back here.
Correct. And there's guys like them who know where their bar is in the tree. But most people that just cut every now and then, they don't know where their bar is in a tree. So they don't know how they've made this or how they're coming up on it. Because see, obviously I can't reach all the way. This is a 32-inch bar. This tree up here at chest high is still 40-something inches on the widest point. I mean, look how far it is across there. I mean, that tree is really wide right there all the way across. And so
it's wider than 40 if it's
32. Yeah, it is. That's a 32-inch bar, so that's going to be 40, you know, 40 something. If you were to cut off down here, it'd be 6 foot down there. And so as you're rotating through your pivot points, it's hard for most people, except for like Jody and them like that, to know where they're at in their cut plane going across there. You see what I'm saying? Because it's kind of like pushing with a bulldozer blade. You can't see in front of your blade, but a good operator knows where his blade is, you know, in relation to where he's pushing. Same thing with a chainsaw. And so you've got, that's the reason why you can bore it, and then this is made, this is done right there. That's done. And wherever you've got this face aimed, that's where it's going to land at. You can walk out there like where you're...
Yeah, like right here.
That's right. Correct. That's right. believe it's gonna rain.